going on, everybody? Welcome to Camille with Cash. It's your host, Cash Money Morgan. Oh my goodness, you guys. I am podcasting tonight on a Monday night. It is currently 9:37. This podcast really was not going to pod itself. It took an enormous amount of energy for whatever reason, but I'm so excited because I have a note full of things to catch you up on and to chat about. So live, laugh, love. Speaking of live, laugh, love, Morgan, can you do a foot check? I would absolutely love to go on to YouTube to see it. Shirt is a one-of-a-kind love brand. Really, I'm surprised we haven't collabed on this because of how much I say live, laugh, love. I don't know. I remember like in high school us having that in my family house, and then I don't really know what happened, but I say it all the time now. And like literally I want to get it like tattooed on me, I think. But it says live, laugh, love brand, one of a kind. Got it at my pop-up. So cute. Pairing it with some airy biker shorts and some cream New Balances. So that is the outfit for this evening at 9:30 p.m. on a Monday night. Woo! Dinner tonight, I went to the gym. And then I was like, I'm going to make some shrimp tacos. I have shrimp from Hy-Vee. And then I really just ate some taco dip. Hopefully I throw in some shrimpies before I go to bed. I don't know. I'm so bad when it comes to that kind of stuff. I need to really better my diet, to be honest. That's my vision board goal for the next 10 years. Anyways, oh my gosh, Morgan, it's time to actually lock in and catch up. You guys, I missed you. There's been so much that has happened since the last solo pod, and just seeing what God has done. The last solo pod, I announced starting my own business, and it's truly been amazing. I thought I could rock and roll with these glasses the whole pod, but I don't think I can. So shout out to Blue Light Glasses. Love you. Almost said live, laugh, love there again. The bevy of choice tonight, as you can see, it's Monday night, so it's ADHD, is a knockoff bubbly from Aldi. So shout out Aldi. I don't know, guys. Vibes are up. But yeah, this is good. So let's get into it. The last solo pod, I had mentioned that I was starting my own business, and there was just a lot going in the seasons and everything and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so all of that is true. All of that happened. Business has been really good. I work part-time as well, just to, help pay the bills and things like that. But I'm getting clients and people are being amazing. And I'm just honestly doing what I feel like I was meant to do. I'm doing things that just make so much sense to me, and I'm having so much fun. And that's really what so much of what life is about, is just doing the things that God has skilled you with and having fun with it. So it's really just so assuring to me knowing that, wow, I went through some hardships and a lot of stress, and I got through it, and now I'm in a position where, life is hard. There's things that are going to be hard work no matter what you do, but I'm in something that is so fulfilling, and it's just so fun, and so I'm so grateful for really being patient in that harder season that I get to be here, and they're still navigating elements of healing in that, but I'm just so in awe that this is all happening and God's doing this, and hopefully I get to travel more once I get more remote, and it's just awesome. So I'm really, really grateful for that season and that part of the journey. So tonight's episode, one we're going to catch up on all the things in life, but tonight's episode is my self-worth journey. I don't know why that was so low. I'm hitting that again. One more time for the plot. My self-worth journey, and we're going to get into it. I really feel like for whatever reason, God's put this on my heart, and just recently I've just had some chats with multiple women kind of about the topic, and so I really feel like I can high level it and talk about my a glimpse of my experiences, and also just the way that God has redeemed me and how I have my standards now and that kind of thing. So before we get into all of that and the vulnerability and the deep stuff, we got to catch up, you guys. So much stuff. I don't even know where to start. First of all, this coming Friday, I'm literally flying home to Wisconsin, which this episode will be dropping. So the day it drops, I will be flying home to Wisconsin. Shout out to Green Bay. Yeah, go Pack, go. Jordan Love. I'm going to be a counselor again at my hometown church camp. And if you guys have listened to the pod for forever, if you're really locked in, or if you've been listening since last year, you'll know that I really got redeemed last year at church camp. God did a lot of things in my heart and my soul, and being able to kind of come back to Springfield and be like, no, I want to start a small group. I want to have an accountability partner. I really want to grow in my faith. And I really feel like this past year, through discipline and hardships and people calling out things in me and challenging me, has really been able to elevate my faith and help pour into other people more as well. One thing we always talk about too is one of the biggest ways you can minister to someone is just really in your life. And so focusing on being a kind Christian that's non-judgmental to people that don't know Jesus or people in general, and just learning how to love but also stand on business has been very interesting for me to navigate. And so it's something I'm still learning like every day. But I feel really proud of everything that God has done. And it's pinch me moments when I think about everything that he's really done in our small group or in my life, which I'll get into actually story number 1. So last week, okay, so if you guys know me, I have ADHD, I self-diagnose. I don't want to ever get on medication because I feel like I'll be less fun, and I really can't stay focused, but I also know my limitations and like what I'm bad at. One thing that I am bad at is losing stuff all the time. Like, you don't understand. I was curling my hair one day and I had 2 clips in my hair, and midway through curling my hair, I couldn't find the clips. They weren't in my hair and they just vanished and disappeared. I don't know how I somehow just found them like lying around one day. They were gone for weeks. That is what my ADHD looks like, or not being able to remember like little things that someone says in passing, but I remember like big things or important details. It's really weird. Anyways, so last week, it was a Sunday. Everything showered, I had gone to church, I went by the pool, and then I got my groceries, and then I put them in a grocery cart, and I was bringing them, and there was a homeless guy sitting. I gave him a water bottle. I went inside the restaurant I live above. I'm talking to my peeps for a while. I go upstairs. I everything shower. I clean, put laundry away. 2 hours go by, and I realize I lost my keys. And if you've been following me in the podcast on Instagram, you kind of know the story a little bit. But I had lost my keys and I was freaking out. I literally tore my loft upside down. I had so much stuff I had to get done that night. And I tear the loft upside down looking for these keys. And I look in the street and I look in my car. My car is locked. So I'm looking like in the streets and I'm like, okay. So if the car is locked, I must have lost them somewhere from the street into the restaurant, into the loft. And I'm calling my friends. I'm like, please walk me through this scenario. I'll call my mom. She's in the middle of her small group. She's like, what's up, sweetie? I'm like, Mom, I can't. I'm like, Mom, I'm freaking out. I lost my keys. I called her like after an hour or 2 of searching. And she's like, well, just keep on praying and looking. In the middle of her small group. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. Like, my parents don't live here. I don't know where the spare key is. So it was just a goofball fest because I'm like, I called the manager of the restaurant. I'm like, hey, can you come through? Can we look at the restaurant? She comes. We look through the restaurant. We don't find anything. And we are looking everywhere. And so I'm getting to the point where the thing about me and where I'm at in my faith, I'm like, I know God has all of this. I'm not even worried. I'm like, okay, it's all going to work out. Either the keys show up or I have to pay for all this new stuff. God's going to provide the money. I just know the provision is there. So I'm not super worried. I'm anxious, but not super anxious. It's a weird vibe because I was freaking out, but also I knew the world wasn't ending. So at this point I was looking for the spare key. And so I'm looking for the spare key in my Forever 21 shopping bag that I keep all of my important information in, and I'm looking in there and I'm trying to find it, and then I just found all these old letters and things like that about when I was going through a hard season and things I should look for in a husband. I remember me and Eva were in a restaurant. We wrote them on Jimmy John's napkins because I just had a breakdown over the situationship I was in at the time. And we wrote in the back of these Jimmy John napkins, things that I shouldn't settle for and things that I should wait for and things like that. And so we're going through all these mementos. And at that point, finally, I just mentally was I'm tired. I don't want to look anymore. I've looked for hours. I just was praying a bunch. I'm like, you know what? I'll just get up early. I'll Uber to work, at my part-time situation. And I'm and I'll just figure it out from there. That's just, but people that have circumstantial anxiety, you have to kind of break up one thing at a time. I'm I can't solve the world. I don't have any control. I can't find these freaking keys. What I can do is plan how I'm going to get to work the next day. So I get up super early. I still like looking around. I was texting the manager. Still didn't find any of the keys. I call this Uber. He comes. I get in the car, and you're probably like not supposed to tell an Uber driver this, but I just told him right away. I was like, "Hey man, like I lost my keys." Like I was like, "Yeah, I lost my keys," and I'm like literally editing like a podcast marketing video, and he starts talking to me, and he's like, "Well, that's funny. I actually just like lost my wallet, and I have to go to the DMV." And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "I'm not tripping though because I have like $300,000 in debt." And I'm like, "Oh no." Like this is, now I have to know what happened. Like now this story just got juicy. Like I need to know. And I'm like, "Well, why do you have so much debt?" And he starts opening up about how he has 2 different forms of cancer. He has pancreatic cancer and liver cancer. And so for reference, I'm not a morning person at all. I also, for whatever reason this day, like all my makeup was locked up in my car. So I was literally just putting on some random concealer I found in my loft. And so it just was coincidental to me that like I couldn't wear makeup this day. I'm in this man's Uber. He just told me he had 2 forms of cancer. It's super early in the morning. I start crying in this Uber. And I'm not even like I'm emotional. I can cry, but I used to cry a lot because I was in unhealthy places. And now I don't really cry that often. And so I'm in this Uber and I start crying. And I like look on the app and I was like, "Hey, so-and-so, like, can I pray for you?" I was like, "I'm a Christian and I just feel like God really wants me to pray for you." He's like, "Sure." So I start praying over him, and I'm praying for healing over cancer, and I'm praying for healing over his body and no pain. And then I feel like the Holy Spirit like takes over, and I'm like, "Dear God, please favor this man, that he knows how much purpose he has, how loved he is, how much of a plan you have for his life, how whenever you call him to heaven, that he spends his last days in happiness and in joy and in peace and in no pain, and he understands how much you love him." And I had just caught this vibe from him that he felt very like empty and just broken, and very much like life wasn't worth living, which also like I don't know what life would be like in his shoes. Like I really physically can't even imagine. And so I'm crying, he's crying. It's 7 a.m. in the beautiful land of the Ozarks. And he opens up to me about how he is a Christian, but he's had a rocky faith with God, and he thinks things are money hungry and things aren't great, which like some churches really are that vibe. He's not wrong in some of that. And I'm like, that some churches are like that, but not every church is like that. Not every Christian is like that. The people that are really trying to pursue God and walk in his word and the fruits of that should be showing fruits of love and kindness in the gospel and things like that. And so it was a really kindred, sweet moment. I knew God was like, I had to meet this person for a reason. And even in my own like prayer life and time with God, I feel like it's kind of been this situation of, will you obey when I tell you to do something? Like, will you go and do it? And kind of like sticking up more so for my faith and what I believe in and, what the Bible says. And so this situation, it almost felt like a test for me, but it felt like a situation that was, benefiting both people. Really, I had the opportunity to pray over this man. I don't know his life journey. I don't know my expiration date, his expiration date. Only God knows that. But I know God was using me to, this whole situation minister to me, but then also minister to him. So then I get to work. I'm there super early, and everyone's like joking about the whole thing because it's just so Morgan coded. Like I'm just chaotic like this. Like this is just so normal for me. And so everyone was so sweet though. Like they were offering me like the company car. People were offering me to take me to lunch. And a coworker of mine was even going to help like figure out a way to have her friend generate me a new key for the ignition, because technically you can only get that from certain dealerships. Like it was a whole thing. My mobile mechanic, my dog, he is on deck. He was going to come to downtown to like burp my car to open it, and then we're going to get the ignition. So it was going to cost me a pretty penny. And like one thing I didn't mention is I'm going to Mexico in September, which, woo! So excited, the land of my people. But I'm going to Mexico, and so I had to put down the down payment for that trip. Shout out to Callie Carroll for her travel agent. Love her so much. And so I just really, at that point, like I hadn't booked the Mexico trip yet. And I'm like, wow, it's really going to be like you pay for this deposit for Mexico or you pay for the keys in the car. Like really, I don't see how financially at this moment I can do both. I can always go on vacation later, but like all these plans that we had made to go and the travel agent and everything would really be for nothing. And so I had called the mobile mechanic. He's supposed to meet me downtown. He was running late, and I get back downtown from a friend who dropped me off. And then I walk in the restaurant. I was like, has anybody seen my keys? Anybody seen them? Everyone's like, no. And then one of the cooks was like, but like, what's that on the counter? And there they are. There they are. Sitting in their full glory on the counter. And I'm sitting here like, first of all, I was trembling, shaking in my boots. Like, I knew they were in the restaurant because I'm like, it's very typical of me to go down there, chat for a while, leave my phone down there, leave my purse down there. Like, I knew it wasn't in my lofts, but I was like, hey, does anybody know? Like, it was a surreal moment. Like, I fully was mentally prepared to drop $500 on all this stuff for my car. And then boom, God's like, nope, right here. It's all good. And I went outside, talked to the crew. I think somebody must have like taken it and like hid it somewhere behind the bar. That was in some corner. I don't know. We did not see it when we did a deep search, which was very odd to me because we looked everywhere and nobody knows who found them and put them on the counter. Nobody knows. So I really feel like God let me suffer a little bit because I'm very like locked in my faith that I'm going to be okay. And I trust him and believe him so that I was able to really meet this guy that I can pray for every day. And I don't know, he works in mysterious ways, but it was very ministering to me. And I think it ministered to people on the podcast page. So that like, what a crazy Sunday night, bro. People are like, what'd you do Sunday night? Oh, I watched, Leave It to Beaver. And then there's me like, I just lost my keys and had a moment of craziness. So again, like these are just like little catch-up moments of what has really happened in the past month, or I guess 2 months. I mean, however you want to count it. I remember I mentioned hammock date a long time ago with that guy that took me on a hammock date, and it was just so negative. I always joke around too on the podcast that like if I am trying to know a guy or like locked in, I won't really talk about it on the podcast unless, we're chill about it or we have, like a nickname or something. I don't know, to be determined. But if I'm not really locked in, I don't really care. So a long time ago, the night of the hammock date was so rough that it made me get back on Hinge for Australia. Occasionally I will hop on Hinge set to Australia because I'm too cheap right now to travel to Australia, but I like to know like what's going on in the world. And so I hop on Hinge Australia because I was just literally so like, that was like a rough date. And typically how Hinge works is that it sucks, and then there's like decent looking people that are standouts, but you have to like pay for them, which I'm not going to do that. And so I go on the app expecting nothing. Expectations are literally on the floor or underneath the floor, the basement. And I get on there and this cute looking guy is trying to match me. Like he's not a standout. He just right away is trying to match me. And he like responded to a prompt I had. And so I'm like, well, this is different. And so we match and I'm going through his profile. He's like very aesthetic. He's cute, I don't know, very, I guess like hipstery. I don't really know. I scroll to the bottom of his profile and I'm like, why does his friend look so familiar? Like, why would anybody in Melbourne look familiar? And it like clicks to me. It clicks. And I realize, oh my gosh, both of these guys are on the Love Island season of Australia that I'm watching right now. And what's crazy is like on the season, I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And then I'm like, I don't know. And then we start to having a friendly little chat on the Hinge, and I don't know, to me, it's like it's in Australia, right? So they don't know I'm in the US, and I'm just like, oh, haha, like, let's go play some ping pong or go to a place with heaps of tables and live, laugh, love. Yeah, as any Hinge person does. I mean, we chatted for 5 minutes, and then he stopped responding and unfriend me. So, slay, hope you get booted off the villa. I'm just kidding. No, I think it's so funny, honestly. Like, it's just one of those quirky moments that I think is so funny to share on the podcast. But, you know, I don't know. He might have been just too... I don't know. I don't really feel like he was my vibe, so it was okay, but it was good for the plot. Also, update on the TMJ, doing so much better. I stopped chewing gum for like 2 months, and now I like put it in my mouth, but I don't like chew it really hard. So I feel like I'm healed for the most part. But quick beverage break. Continuing. I don't really know if I recap my birthday at all. It was awesome. All my friends are literally amazing. Eva, Hannah, Lena, Raina, the whole list, the whole shebang. They're all so fun. We had a great time. I had my classic steak. We had like multiple cake situations. I made a goofy cake. I pretended to be Cake Boss. It wasn't Cake Boss, but it tasted good. And then we did that, took a bunch of pics, had so much fun. And then what did we do? We literally went and changed clothes and went to Classics Yard and played a bunch of sports. But before we went to like sports, they were like, oh, come on the concert side. So we went to the concert side and dance. And then we played sports. Yeah, and then we called it a night. And honestly, it was great. It was one of the best birthdays of my life. So 25 has been great so far, honestly. I feel really different. I feel very, I don't know. I guess I feel very like my faith with God is really good. And I don't feel like it's been this good since I was like 16. So I don't know. It's kind of new territory for me, like being 25 and being like very sold out for Jesus. I don't know. So it's definitely different. I like it. I mean, it's good. I live with way less fear. But it's definitely new for me. So it's cool. So diving into a little bit deeper now, the meat and potatoes. Oh yeah, I guess my fake wedding. I don't know how much to touch on it, but I mentioned that I was going to have like an Alex Earl goofy fake wedding, which we did. It was so funny because the restaurant crew, like everyone knows I kind of want to get married someday in Greece. And so we just do goofy things for the plot. Like we have fun little parties that make no sense. We hang out, we do funny stuff. Everyone just has a good time. That's just what we do. Like bring back fun, 2024. But yeah, Kenan was my fake husband and we like wrote our own vows. I wrote mine like 30 minutes before. He ChatGPT'd his, but they were still a slay. And the wedding was an hour late because one of the groomsmen just like didn't want to come anymore. So I walked down the aisle with a ping pong paddle and we did everything that I would like never do in real life. But I don't know, maybe I'll do the ping pong paddle thing in real life. But it was so fun. Like my queens were there and then we had our little ceremony, lasted 15 minutes. And then shout out to my neighbor Tara for making an amazing like 3-tiered cake. And then we just went around downtown and we ate some cake and we had fun. It was a great night, sang some karaoke. Fake wedding was amazing. So hopefully the real wedding just blows it out of the park, which I feel like it will. But yeah, 10 out of 10 experience, would do again maybe. I don't know. I think it was weird that people were like, oh, I don't know what Morgan's doing, but that's fine. That's just very me. The fact that I've been yapping for 23 minutes and I haven't even really gotten into, I mean, we needed a catch up. We needed a good catch up. So now getting into the meat and potatoes of the episode is my self-worth journey. And I want to say too, like, you know, I'm going to be vulnerable. Episodes like these are really scary. Pray for your podcast hosts because I really don't know who all listens. You know, I look on the app and my analytics and it says like a million different countries. I don't know who all listens in Springfield and I don't know whatever. So I just like pray and hope that you guys are pretty like sincere with my feelings and emotions and like what I share and, you know, just be like genuine in that. And also there are things for like privacy I don't share. Like, you know, I'm very healed. I forgive all kinds of people and things from my past. I just want to be encouraging to someone that's going through a season like this or a hard time. So a few factors that brought this up for me to talk about my self-worth journey. And a lot of it's going to be a little bit between like my relationship with men, because I feel that for a long time of my life, a lot of that has been wrapped up in my self-worth. And so kind of navigating the separation of the two, or self-worth and my job, you know, and like identifying who you are and your identity versus, you know, a label that we put in our Instagram or LinkedIn bio is pretty prominent and important. And so a few things that brought me wanting to have this conversation up was, one, I was around one of my friends and she was like, oh, well, Morgan would never get cheated on. Be so for real. Which, first of all, anybody could cheat on anybody. So we're all in danger. But it meant a lot to me because in the past I was in a really unhealthy situationship, and also just have been treated poorly by various different men. And also, like, I'm not perfect. I've made toxic mistakes and things like that as well. But then it was the craziest thing. Like, we had the pop-up, which it was so fun. We did it Memorial Day weekend, which was not smart. So the count of people there was low, but we had a great time, and I do want to do more events in the future. So please, you guys, come and buy the merch and hang out, because I want to have fun things, but I need people to come so we can do more fun things and have it make sense. So, but one of my friends came and we talked about her life and things like that. And she was kind of going through a difficult season like that, and was opening up to me. And then just recently I was at my gym hot tub, just straight chilling, and me and, a beautiful woman was in there, and we were just start chatting, and she was also kind of in a situation. And it's just so common. Like, I think it's 2024. For me, I'm really like, my standard is here, meet it or don't, and so it's hard because so many guys don't really want to, like, and not even just guys, like women too. It's easier to want connection, not put labels on things, just get into situationships or whatever it is, navigate it, figure it out later. But it gets messy and your emotions are tied in, and it gets toxic because you feel like you have ownership of one another, and all of a sudden you start making all these mistakes and you love each other, but you're not really dating. And it's a huge, messy mess. And it's gut-wrenching, and it creates soul ties, and it's painful. And so I think for me, when I look at my life in relationship with men, like, I think growing up, the first guy I ever liked was a little bit not healthy either. Just kind of like the push and pull, the ghost me once in a while, doesn't want to date me, but wants all my time and attention. And I don't know if it's just because, like, my family growing up, like, we recently got really big on mental health and stuff like that. But growing up, we weren't always like that. Love you, mom and dad, peace out, but all this. But, like, we would get into fights, and sometimes we wouldn't resolve it. We would just ignore it and then talk about, move on in 3 days. And it's just things like that I feel attributed a little bit to my, like, emotional craving. Like, oh, okay, if things are a little bit confusing, that feels good to me. Or I don't know. And so I didn't really date a whole lot in high school, and I felt like my self-worth was really good. I was really on fire with God. And then college was a little bit different. I went on lots of dates with guys. People say things about you, like about your body and stuff like that. And then I got, 2020 hit, and I kind of got into a situationship that really just wasn't healthy. And the biggest part I really want to encourage women more so, and men too, is for me, I wanted connection and feeling with someone I liked so badly that I really surrendered all my boundaries and my self-worth things. And that's where I had so much heartbreak. And really, like, the thing about it is, back then I didn't have the strength to really say, I'm good. Like, I would rather be alone with my self-worth and my strength and know who I am and what I deserve than have you tonight and then never see you for X amount of months, or be pinned against a different girl, or blah, 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 blah. And so, I didn't know that. And I was very much like, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to try my hardest, and I wasn't perfect. And really, like, I'm completely, praise God, like, over all of this situation. But it lasted a long time for me, because the connection was good. And that's why a lot of people's situationships last, is because you have an attachment that it's good. My senior year of college was a really hard year for me. I was in and out of that toxic situation. I was going through very close friendship heartbreaks, and I had a puking problem. I had developed a puking problem from food allergies and also anxiety. I had no idea what that was. I got that diagnosis basically like 2 years after having it. I remember one day waking up and it felt like a flap in my esophagus went down. And I remember my mom, we had just made dinner. There's a lot of dirty dishes. And I just looked at them, saw them, and threw up my entire dinner. I remember from that moment, my life was changed. For 2 years, I threw up all the time. I threw up while driving. I threw up after a lot of restaurants and a lot of bathrooms. I had food anxiety for pretty much anywhere I went. I was so incredibly skinny. My graduation day of college, I was skinniest that I've ever been in my entire life. And I was extremely broken. And I don't think anybody knew. And if they didn't know, they knew I was down bad. So the people that were there for me and prayed for me and whatnot, I really appreciate you guys and everyone. And I'm really this is a redeemed situation. But this is what I went through. And so it was really, really hard because at the time too, I'm broken from the situationship, but I'm using other guys to heal that pain. And I had this puking problem and all these things. And deep down, we just want to be loved, right? We just want to feel beautiful and be loved. And we're looking for it in everything. And when I graduated, I loved Evangel, but by the time you're a senior, you know everybody and you're around all of it. And I just needed space. And so I graduated, I cut people off, and I started my big girl job. I was still sick. It got better, but it was still a thing. And then I really started messing around with guys. And I think it's weird talking about this because for my own self-worth, what I was going through in my life was, there were seasons of where I felt I was beautiful and then I would feel I needed a guy to tell me I was beautiful and all these things and these lies I believe I need to have physical touch every 6 months. I'll go find it. I'm a fiend for it, blah, blah, blah. And it's shut up. You don't need these things. They're so great. I love guys. I love guys. I love physical touch. I love all the things. But it's a lie that says I need to sacrifice who I am, my boundaries, to find instant gratification for a random night and then just figure it out again in 6 months. That's a lie. And I started my big girl job and I was broken and I was super skinny and I had this puking problem. And I remember I wanted validation, so I started just partying a lot. And, when I would hang out with different guys and this and nothing would stick. And I remember specifically one night, it was with some of my guy friends. We had kind of it was kind of, I don't know, we were in and out of friendship. And then on one night they had this guy that I'd seen, thought it was cute. We hang out, we go back to their place, it's super chill, nothing crazy. We had a great time. I was oh my gosh, I could actually see myself dating this guy. A few weeks later, we run into each other again. They invite me back again. This time he was massively drunk and I ended up staying. And I remember being in a situation that it was dangerous and he was drunk and I was I don't want to do anything with you. And he started saying things to me, saying such hurtful things to me, treating me like I was some girlfriend that he hates, all this stuff. I was scared. I was broken. I remember I said something to him well, I'll do this for you or whatever. And I remember his response was so gutting. In that moment, I felt the Holy Spirit punch me in the gut being why would you do that? And the next day, I just left that house and I walked all the way back to my car, which was 20 minutes. I cried. I was praying to God. I felt just awful. And I called Chloe and I was girl, come hang out with me. And I remember being I have to change my relationship with men because I was made with a purpose. And this is not living intentionally with a purpose. This is living chaotically. This is living blindly. This is having no direction. This is you're trying to go to California, but you don't have a map or a GPS. You're just going to drive and hope that you get there. That's what that living is like. And I was so mortified. And this man didn't remember anything he said to me. He didn't remember all the things that he did or anything. And I remember he just tried to hit on me and keep talking to me it was normal. And I was get out of my life. I'm just so grateful that the situation didn't go into a really bad place because it could have been really dangerous. But also I was what am I doing putting myself in that dangerous situation? I should not be at this man's house. I do not know. and he's obliterated. And like, what am I doing? I needed to make a lifestyle change. And so, that has been such a journey for me in, kind of navigating like what I do deserve and how I should be treated and all of that. And at the same time, like trying to navigate that and also heal from the situationship, because I don't think we talk about that enough. Okay, great. You finally mustered the strength to get out. Let's talk about the healing. Let's talk about having to heal without getting an apology, without having closure, no contact, nothing. Like, I remember I'd be at work and it would just be like so boring or something. And my brain would just go back to every single thing that person told me. And I would believe it about myself. You're second best. You're not the one. If you wanted to, you would. Like, my relationship with women wasn't good because I would compare myself to every girl that looked a little bit like me. And that wasn't healthy. And the biggest thing about it was that it stole all my joy. It stole all of my joy. Like, I think one of the things I love about myself and what people love and like what God created was this person that is just like happy-go-lucky, life on my sleeve. I'm going to have fun. And in that season, it was like that was all sucked out of me. And I remember just partying with different guys, doing different things, and then like trying to heal this. And I did all kinds of things. I would like Google how to heal, and it would say things like, well, you can break a bad habit in 6 months. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to break habits. I'm not going to check people's social media. I'm not going to, every time I think about him, I'm going to pray about him. Like, I'm going to try to do all these things. I got like a lot of new hobbies. I really penny boarded more. I journaled a lot. I journaled all the time. And like, thank God I went to counseling and therapy because I wasn't okay. My parents, my friends were like tired of hearing everything, which fair enough. But I needed to talk through it. And so if you are skilled in that area, give. Like, if you are a great counselor, or listener, or mentor, there are so many teenagers or young adults that need you. And you don't have to be a doctorate psychologist to be able to pour into someone's life. So I seriously, like, chef's kiss, I'm so grateful for that person in my life who was able to just help me really navigate through emotions and understanding things, and like being able to say like, I forgive someone and don't condone the actions or the sin or whatever happened, but also understanding like that's God's place. I forgive you. Learning how to even be like, I wish the best for you and I bless you has been a new one, navigating all of that. But it's because, God is so good to me. And I just, I'm grateful for who I am today. I always think about like, what would have happened if I wouldn't have, or if I would have stopped here or didn't do that. And like, I can go back and maybe life would be whatever, but I think about like those time capsule movies, and when someone makes like a different decision and their whole life is so different, I'm like, I don't want to miss out on who I am today. And so I'm grateful for every season I went through. I mean, throughout that time, like, God healed my stomach. Praise God, I don't have a puking problem any longer. God's healed my relationship with men. That next year, I made myself go on all kinds of dates. I was a dating app queen. I don't do apps anymore besides the occasional Australian Hinge. But I went on a lot of dates with guys who treated me really, really well. And I learned so much about all kinds of different things. I didn't really know what's going on in my life. I still don't know what's going on in my life. Apparently, I'm still in Springfield. And so I met a lot of great guys along the way, but navigating like, okay, this guy's great, but there's not as great a connection. This guy doesn't 100% like do what he says. This guy like blah, blah, blah. And it's always scary too, like the first guy you really like after the toxic situation, and understanding like, you pray that prayer where it's like, God, if it isn't him, take him away. Like I have a weird feeling or whatever. And then God does, and it sucks. Bro, it sucks. But I've just learned so much about the let them theory. I see all the time on TikTok where it's like, stop having control over people and just let them. I learned that a lot in friendships, job relationships, like, corporate settings, or, really with guys. It's, whatever we care about a lot, like we're going to put effort and energy into. And sometimes we do go through hard seasons and things like that where we can't as much, but really it's like, let them. And that's so hard because you want to be like, why don't you, why? But ultimately, like, God has the plan. He sees and hears conversations that we don't. And so as hard as it is to be like, okay, God, I trust you through this. I believe you through this. Rock on, do the things. So I will say, like, trying to live intentionally and really wait on what God has is really boring sometimes and hard, but it's so worth it, because I know right now, like, I'm not dating anybody. I'm not being cheated on. I know I have my boundaries and standards, and there's just some guys that are just filled with audacity. Like, you know, it's not easy. Like, I am attracted to non-Christian guys. I think they're so funny. Like, I think, like, it, you know what I'm saying? But, like, I have to understand what I'm called to and things like that, and being like, great, like, I'll be your friend. Like, let's hang out. Like, let's chat, you know, all these things. But in a relationship, it's, you know, Jesus. And then it's like my most intimate relationship after that is my person. And it's like, I want to be able to talk about Jesus and, like, love on him together and all that stuff. And so it definitely was a long season. I just try to think about life like 2 years ago, and I made so many mistakes, and, you know, just so many things have happened. But really going to church camp last year, you know, and I'm a busy person, obviously. Like, I have a job and now my own business and the podcast and the small group, and we serve in church and volunteer in anti-sex trafficking, and we have friends and merch and pop-ups and pizza and Nobu and blah, blah, blah. And there was nowhere that I carved out time for Jesus. And when I went to church camp, everyone's like, what's God telling you in your life? What's God doing? And I'm like, I don't know. And for someone that was so on fire when I was 16 to be like 24 at the time and being like, I don't know, was embarrassing. Like, it was sad. And I felt so sad about it, that the most important relationship with the most important, you know, in the entire world was not on my calendar, not on my Google Meet agenda. And that's when I came back. I remember the whole car ride, like, flight back from Green Bay. I was just crying the entire time, like, reading my Bible in the airport, just gutted. And Eva can attest, she picked me up, and I was like, I'm changing my entire life. Like, I'm going to change. And so the thing about it is, when I meet women today that are in situationships, or men, you know, and they're really going through it and they're down bad, I get it. Like, I don't judge you. I've been there. You know, the connection is so good. It's like drug-like. And, you know, but I think it really takes a team of people. It takes God's strength, not your own. It takes distance, hobbies, and time. Really takes God's strength and time, like, married together to move on from that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing I learned was the moment I said no, like God's in the driver's seat, but I'm in the passenger, right? You know, and being like, I will not allow this in my life, is when I regained power. And now I feel like I have so much power in being like, I'm not going to let this into my mindset or my overthinking or anything. Like, I really want to control, like, my safe environment. And there's things in life we can't control. There's things that happen that we have no power over. But I like that quote from The Perks of Being a Wallflower, where it's like, we accept the love we think we deserve. That's not true for every case, because sometimes people are dealt hard cards, and it's, you know, it's not like they asked for minimal love. But in the terms of dating, when we literally are picking partners to spend the rest of our lives with each other, accept the love you think you deserve. And so, you know, for me, like, God died on the cross for my sins, like, that's unconditional love. You know, on earth, I'm not going to find a love like that. But who's going to love me on earth that loves God with everything they have, you know, that resembles that authentic, kind, deeper love? And so, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a cold world out here, but I just have so much peace. The fact that I know that I'm not sacrificing any of my boundaries. You're not going to catch me in some lizard's late night, like, after party vibe anymore. I mean, I don't know. Like, that was so older of me, and I've made some mistakes. And at the end of the day too, I mean, you can't ask every person or whatever, but, like, after I made mistakes or whatever, you know, you're like, ah, ha, ha, ha. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, I wish this person actually cared about me. You know, like, I wish this person actually like cared about how my day was, you know, or things like that. That was like actually locked in. And so I don't know, there's so much intentionality tied in with God and all these things. And so I just encourage you that whatever you are in your season of self-worth, maybe it's I see it a lot of times wrapped up in body image, and from both scales, maybe it's someone that's struggling with, being overweight, or someone that's being really skinny. Like they're just, don't let the world define who you are. That's ultimately what these are. When you're in your situationship, you're allowing, maybe it's a guy who doesn't have good intentions, define who you are because based on how he's treating you. Or it's a job telling you you're not good enough and that's why you're gone, or it's a parent telling you that you're not good enough and that whatever, you're a bad kid, or it's whatever it may be, whatever it is in your life. But it's like, I know who I am in Christ. And so when you're rooted in that, in your identity, nothing can stop you. And that's what I feel like has been one of the biggest shifts in terms of relationships for me is, if a guy wants to hang out with me, they're going to ask me to hang out. Like if they care about me, they're going to show it in the reflection, how they act or how they talk to me. If they don't care about me, they're going to show that in their actions. They're not going to be there. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but I understand that just because a guy doesn't care about me doesn't mean that I'm not great. And I think that's what the hardest thing that was for me to accept was like, if a guy doesn't care about me, then obviously something's wrong with me. No, something could be wrong with them, or maybe they're struggling with something or whatever their journey is, or just literally wasn't a good fit or a good match, whatever it is. But just because someone treats you poorly does not make you less than. Okay? You can see it in the Bible. You can see it on the street. You can see it in all kinds of things. We see amazing people that you never would expect get cheated on or hurt, or things happen. And it's because humans are flawed and hurt people. And so it's just kind of that thing where just because someone hurt you doesn't make you the reason. Sometimes maybe you guys do need to communicate and it is the reason. But I really feel like that situation, a situationship or whatever it is in your life that is painful and you feel like you don't have control over, don't let that define who you are and where you're going, because it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think when I got out of that mindset, when I really let that go and I healed from everything, and then I started having guys that would actually make reservations or take me on dates and like wanted to talk to me. And like right now, obviously I'm single, but it's because I'm 100% like, okay, God, I'm just chilling. Like there's so many other things happening right now, and it is summer, but for the most part, like I'm chilling. And I don't know. So I just really want to encourage you, because it's really not easy. Like having to heal without those things is very hard. And that's why you got to be surrounded by people that really, really care about you, good friends, having a healthy environment that wants the best for you. That's so important. You have one person in your friend group that like preys on your demise. I'm grateful that I don't really think I've ever had someone like that, but you got to cut that out. Like that's not healthy. And God really, really redeems. He really redeems, whether it's your mindset, your body, your soul, your faith, whatever it is. You are made new. Your past does not define who you are. It doesn't define where you're going. It often just, God uses any kind of pain. And so I look back on environments that I was in during that party phase, and bad things didn't always happen, but sometimes they did. And I wasn't even doing crazy things, and I'd be in an environment and then maybe someone touched me inappropriately or something happened and it affected me. And I'm just saying, like, I'm so grateful that I really went through some things and I didn't have to go through anything too crazy, but really God opened my eyes. That was like, Morgan, you want a Christian man? Why would he be here at this place? Why would he be here looking for a wife or a good girlfriend or whatever it is? He probably won't. So why the heck are you there? And so I just feel like this whole year has been like slap in the face, slap in the face, slap in the face of just things that we talk about in our small group, like the nitty gritty of faith, right? Like say I have the loft here and I clean the whole loft, which one day may happen. And it's like, oh my gosh, Morgan, like you're so clean, like everything's so great, but you're not going through all my cabinets because none of those are organized. And so I feel like in the place in my faith that I'm in right now is God's like, Morgan, you look really shiny and clean on the outside, but inside you have all these little things that you haven't dealt with, and we got to deal with them. We got to go through unresolved unforgiveness that you're still holding. We got to go through pettiness, like your anger. We got to go through these things, blah, 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 blah. And so prayer is great. Fasting's great. Faking it till you're making it. And, and prayer is great. Saying it out loud to the point, so at some point you believe it. Also, hobbies are great. Basketball is great. Ping pong's great. Golf is great just to hit stuff. That's what I do. But yeah, so it's been a deep episode. I am really, really redeemed about everything that God has done in my life. If you knew me 2 or 3 years ago, you knew that I was in a really, really broken, sad place. I was sad girl hours 24/7. I was super skinny. I was hopeless. So when I sit here on my couch, like body healthy, post-gym, podcasting, great friends, great parents, great church, and having standards with guys to the point that people that I'm not even super tight with notice is really remarkable. That really anyone can change their life. God can redeem absolutely anybody. He can use any pain for good. You are not sentenced to your identity of what someone else puts on you, because people in the world will always do that. There's a song that really got me through some hard seasons when people tried to put some labels on me, like I was less than, I wasn't good enough, when I knew that's not true. And it says, it's called I Know Who I Am. And I just sing it over and over and over and over again because like God says who I am, like I know who I am. But I say that stuff out loud so that I can hear it and believe it. Because if we're not rooted in who we are, what will the world define you as? And I think that's a scary thought because everything's always changing. So I don't know, you got to be rooted in who you are. And in this case, like who God calls me to be. So I don't know. We did a podcast. The next podcast coming out is really amazing and you need to definitely listen to it. And I was just talking about my story and my friend was like, you've got to share your story, which, we got some things cooking in the kitchen too. This is a big part of my story was just seeing how much God was able to heal and use. And I gave the Spark Notes version for sure, but God heals brokenness. Time and God, man, and raise the standard. Because my biggest thing with the situationship or whatever, or dating, is I was like, dude, I'm giving up all my boundaries for connection with this guy, but then this other girl will walk in and they'll do the standards for her, but they won't do it for me. And that's where I was like, I want to be the girl that they do the standards for. And so the hard thing about it is when you are that girl, you have to be so okay with them walking away. Like, okay, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do this together. Okay. Bye. So long, farewell. And that's hard because when we are comfortable with company, it's scary to be alone, but really we're not alone. We have Christ. And so kind of navigating that was hard and kind of having to like let people go, but things always come out, you can't really hide things in the darkness. And I'm really just so grateful for forgiveness and redemption and healing. And I'm happy, you guys. I'm so happy. Like, I'm so excited with how God did everything and how everything's working out and really what he has going on for the future because I'm really excited. Yeah. So that's pretty much just what I want to talk about tonight. And that was a big part of my self-worth journey. I feel very filled of what God says, and the Bible says all kinds of things like women, you are above rubies and, this is what love is and like blah, blah, blah. And like speaking those things over yourself and having a relationship with, a good relationship with your body and food and those kinds of things. There's things that I literally have to carry my cross for every single day just because I mean, like, I'm doing this podcast right now, and like literally tomorrow I'm going to struggle with validation with men. So, I mean, it's not something that it's done. Like, it's something you work on every single day. And that's just understanding is the question is God enough, and will you surrender it? So this is a deep podcast. Your therapy, swipe your card. But yeah, I just want to encourage you guys to really pray about that and really ask yourself, you know, even if you end up with nobody or whatever happens or your dreams don't come true, will God be enough for you? Is his love enough? And that's something that I'm working on in my own life and being content in that. And everything else is just an added bonus. Switching gears a little bit. If you saw the Instagram, you noticed that we have some thrifted pieces that I have been putting screen printed coming up with cash on. More to come for sure in the future. Really excited about all of that. But yeah, you guys are amazing. As we end every single show per usual, I'm trying to think of anything else crazy has been going on. Not really. I have just been so on the grind. I'm trying not to pack the night before church camp this time. Been watching Modern Family again, just catching up on that. Oh my gosh, how did I forget? I burned my hair off. I knew this whole podcast. I was like, there is something I'm forgetting. Yeah, I was curling my hair before my friend's wedding at Hannah's house with Hannah and Susan Slay. And I had my curling iron on, and it's like 425 because I have a thick hair queen, but honestly, I should have had it way lower. And we're just chatting, and then I was like, yeah, ha 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 ha. I go to like undo it, and the hair just stayed on the curling iron. And literally it was that meme from like 2012 with the girl, and she's like, oh, that's exactly what happened. And Hannah and Susan just start freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, you just burned your hair off. And, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here like, because unfortunately, this is not the first time this has happened. And I just was super chill. I was like, look at that. I mean, it was a middle piece, so it's not that big of a deal. But I just turned the curling iron off, took the hair off, threw it out, let it like chill out for a little bit, and then I just finished curling my hair. And everyone was in my comments and my likes being like, ah. And I'm like, look, you guys, I am like, if Kesha wanted to be like a clean girl, like there's days where it's like, wow, Kesha, your skin looks amazing. By the end of the day, you're very like, like chaotic, like the t-shirts, the kind of messy, like at the end of the day, like that's who I am. So the whole thing, I was like, it's going to be okay, you guys. My hair will grow back. I do a lot of hair masks. It's going to be fine. So that was wild. But yeah, ending the pod the same way. Definitely listen to the next episodes. Buy some merch. I'm hopefully going to be at the next Rakish event if everything works out. Slay. I want to do more pop-ups and events. So like always message me ideas because I love fun ideas. Ending the show the same way every time. Song, quote, and legacy. I had to write down what I was thinking. So song, this is tough because I love rap. I love Kendrick Lamar right now. So it's hard because I'm like, Kendrick. But I also love the song and the trend, like Revival by Zach Bryan. Like I love seeing those TikToks of people that are very like lost and broken and they find Jesus and it's like how their life changed. So somewhere between Kendrick Lamar, we'll just say Not Like Us, and then Zach Bryan, Revival. Quote, I'm actually going to quote, I'm not going to quote Joe Dirt or Helen Keller tonight. I'm actually going to quote Jeremiah 29:11, which I actually have a necklace of this that I got from Etsy. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you hope in the future. And the verse continues and is like, plans to prosper you, blah, blah, blah. This quote I wanted to get a necklace on because when someone ghosts me, when things don't go my way, I have to understand and remember that ultimately God has a plan. And if I'm in his word and I'm like having a good relationship with God, I'm not going to miss out on his plan. So just kind of understanding that amidst the trials and tribulations and the storm, there is still a plan through this. God still has you through this. Your pain isn't wasted. So just kind of understanding that has really helped me, I think, in my healing journey too. And also just understanding every season has a purpose. You know, right now it's like downtown single business girl era. I'm going to miss this someday. Like, it has a purpose. I need my attention on my clients, my friends, the podcast, Jesus, like small group, you know, and if God wants to bring a feller along the way, slay. If not, it's going to be fine. Okay. Australian Hinge. I'm just kidding. Honestly, I haven't been on them so long, so whatever. And then legacy. I always say that I just want people that when they interact with me, they feel loving kindness like Jesus, you know, they experience the fruits of the Spirit, like they really see light. And that's my goal. So when I'm gone someday, hopefully they remember me for that, and also my ping pong abilities. Fun fact, this Evangel didn't have a ping pong team, but I really believe that if they did, I would have been like captain. I did also donate a ping pong table to Burgess Hall. Never got it engraved. That was like my mortal regret. But I used to tell guys, like I would tell just people in general that I was recruited for a full scholarship ride to Evangel for ping pong. And the amount of people that believe me, like first of all, thanks guys. Oh my gosh. Like 5 different people from like different walks of life were convinced, and I wasn't even trying to swindle them because low key, like I believe it. But no, Evangel does not have a ping pong team. Once I make enough racks that I can help fund that, there will be, but that's just not there yet. I am going to get back into like my ping pong tournament play era, I think. I don't know. Summer's here. We'll see what the vibes are. But just remember, you guys, what we talked about, like, you are so loved. You are filled with purpose. No pain is ever wasted. And you got this. You can do this. You know, we accept the love we think we deserve. God has a plan for you, and you're made for more. Remember to always keep on keeping up with cash. Okay, bye.